Welcome. I'm Diane Meyerhoff, host for Town Meeting TV's Winooski Mayoral Candidate Forum, part of our ongoing Town Meeting 2021 coverage. This show is being aired live on Town Meeting TV and streamed live on our YouTube channel. We welcome your comments and questions. If you're seeing this program live, please join the conversation at 862-3966. I'm joined by incumbent Mayor Kristine Lott. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And you are running unopposed for mayor.
I am. There is no challenger on the ballot.
Okay. Oh, okay. But we could have a write-in. That's what Alex and I were talking about that earlier. You never can be sure, right?
You never know.
So it's a 3-year term for mayor, right?
That's right.
And
yes.
Is this your second?
This would be my second term. I just completed my first term, which was filling out the 2 years of the previous 3-year seat, and would be going into a full 3-year term.
Okay, great. So tell us what's on your mind? What's on the mind of Winooski people as you talk to your constituents?
That's a good question, Diane. There's a lot on folks' minds here. I think one of the things I want to start with is talking about housing and development, because that is something that I have consistently heard as a trending topic since I first ran for mayor. And so we know that in our region, there's a serious housing crisis. There's not enough supply. The prices are too high. Specifically in Winooski, we also lack the right type of housing. So we have a lot of folks looking for things that are affordable to middle income families or family sized housing. So, 2-3 bedrooms plus. And we're just not seeing those things be developed in line with the need.
So the newer developments you're talking about.
Exactly.
More,
yeah.
Smaller apartments. Is that what?
Yes, it's a lot of 1 bedrooms and studios going in.
Okay.
And we are seeing a good amount of subsidized low income affordable units. Mm-hmm. Again, still missing that larger family size piece. And when you have, let's say, low income and then higher end market rate units, even folks who could afford to pay more are gobbling up those sort of market rate units and putting further pressure on that middle income area. So we see a need there for our workforce. And so, I think Winooski has been playing its role in the region, in the county, with adding to the housing supply. The more supply can start to catch up with demand, that should reduce the escalating, the increasing rent and housing costs that we're seeing. That should remove some of that pressure. But we want to make sure that we are developing the right kind of housing for Winooski, that we have those different options. Residents are concerned about not having space for families having to move out and leave our school district. And so we are beginning policy discussions about how we can sort of influence that development more strongly to meet those needs.
What does that look like?
Yeah, so
I think that's a conundrum all over, right? Yeah,
it certainly is. And so we've talked about we actually have in our development, in our zoning regulations, you can get a bonus 4th story if you build sort of towards that middle income affordability level. Mm-hmm. But no development has ever taken us up on that, because it's not enticing enough. That 4th story costs too much to weigh it.
Really?
Yeah. So as I understand it, the construction, when you get to 4 story, or is it 5 stories? It's 4 or 5. I don't recall offhand. In any case, at some point you have to switch from wood to steel, and it becomes more expensive.
Okay. Interesting.
And I've also heard that 2 bedrooms are kind of slow to move, and anything beyond that's just not financially viable. And so we have costs to developers with permitting. We're discussing impact fees potentially. And so there are ways that we could reduce those costs as an incentive, or reduce a requirement. We've talked about parking requirements. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of what we're discussing right now, is what would actually move the needle there. I don't have those answers yet, but that's something that we're working towards.
Interesting. It's interesting how what kind of incentives do you do, the carrot and stick approach?
Yeah.
What if you don't have any regulations, what do people build? and why. And it's very interesting. And to hear that families feel squeezed out, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
It's a challenging puzzle. And I think the other piece of it is property taxes are part of that affordability concern for new development, for renters, for homeowners. And so the other piece of it is at a local level, being mindful of our spending and what we're putting forth in our budget every year, that we're not continuing to really bump up faster than, folks' wages are growing. So
right.
that's another thing that I've been mindful of in this role, and will keep being focused on as well, is having, a sustainable approach to what we're providing in the cost of that service.
And it seems like you've been working hard to keep the budget increases down.
Yes,
together.
We've been able to stay under the cost of living adjustment, which is great, and something I hope we can continue to do. I think the full city council was on board for that this year, especially considering, the economic impacts that community members have felt in the past year.
Sure. And maybe that's actually a good segue into talking about COVID and what you've learned through this last year or so.
It has been a big learning experience and was not something I anticipated for my second year in this role.
Right.
So no laughing matter, like the biggest thing that I think we've learned is just the dire effect that income inequality has on the health of individuals and the broader community. So, I mentioned earlier that lack of family-sized housing. We have big families squeezing into 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. There's no way these folks can isolate or quarantine. They're carpooling to work because public transportation doesn't meet their needs. They can't access a private vehicle. How are you supposed to address that concern when you're trying to avoid spreading COVID? A lot of these folks are in jobs that don't provide any paid time off. And so they, I used to work as a server myself. And if you miss work, you don't get paid. And if you're living on a really stringent income, that's a hard choice to make. And so there's many different ways that the barriers are just so much higher that really a lot of our families can't follow public health guidance or best practice right now. And so that is a problem not only for them and their families, but the broader public health. These folks are members of our community. A lot of them work in essential roles. And so I think that is a learning I hope that we take away at every level of government, that really letting folks, maybe slip through the cracks or not addressing these concerns is a negative impact for all of us. I certainly hear conversations about this moving forward. We are discussing it, but it's got to be attacked on all levels, right? Just the city level, we can't fix this problem.
Right. Sounds like you're going to have a big few years ahead of you.
I think so. The pandemic continues. I think we're going to continue to see shifting needs. We are working to adapt to those as we have been over the past year, while simultaneously trying to move forward with our broader community vision, with the Winooski master plan, and get some of those big projects and commitments that voters voted on in the past few years moving forward. So there is a lot of work to do. And I'm looking forward to making progress on all those fronts.
Yeah. And we talked earlier a little bit about, you wanted to talk about community safety and policing. And I'm curious how that's going for you, what the issues are there for you.
Sure. Rightfully this summer, we heard from a lot of community members concerned about public safety and policing. Our staff and myself and others engaged in several community conversations about our approach to policing in Winooski. So I would say we are very fortunate to have a leadership in our department that's built a culture that's really community focused. And I've heard many stories and seen very positive encounters between community members and members of our PD. But we know that there are still issues of bias. There are still problems that we need to work out. I think we are committed to continuing to have community conversations. Actually just over this week and last week, the school has been having some community conversations about safety in schools and the school resource officer, which myself and police department staff and another member of council are participating in, so that we can hear if there's changes to be made. But I think the sort of the big issue that we see is in how much of these calls for help are focused on mental health and addiction issues, and really having the right structures in place to support that. We have been engaged with the Howard Center Community Outreach Team for a couple of years, and it's been really a lot of help. They've responded to so many calls, been able to get social services and supports to folks, take the police out of it. So that is something that we want to continue to fund that and support that. And there are also conversations happening about, what happens after that call. Are the right services available to folks who need intervention, who need longer term help than just this one incident? And so that's something that I would like us to stay focused on. I think that our police department is also very interested, as well as really getting ahead of folks who need those supports, so that it doesn't become a first response situation over and over again.
And have you seen have you kept your police officer numbers about the same, as well as these kind of civilian support, I'll call them, for financial liaisons? I don't know what you call them, but have those been kind of going up, or they've been kind of steady, or do you imagine that they will be more of them in the future?
That's a good question, Diane. We have had stable staffing in my time here. We haven't discussed the need to add any more. I think right now, the outreach team's support has felt really successful in moving us forward for our PD. I know that, so there's a couple of communities that pay for that service for those experts to come into the community. And so I know that with, I think Milton and Heinsberg maybe just joined in. And so they're adding another member to the team to expand on that. And so, which is a benefit, right? Just having a bigger pool of people. So we will continue to support that. And if we see a need, if it's not meeting the needs, we see a need for more, I would have a discussion about increasing that staff.
So are there staff that are specifically assigned to Winooski, or?
No, it's a team that supports the region. Okay. And we are able to call them, individuals can call them, other community partners, and they'll send the right person for the call as they see fit with their expertise on these kind of issues.
Okay, got it. Huh, interesting. Well, believe it or not, we're running out of time. That's how quickly it goes, right? But tell me, how are folks voting in Winooski this year?
So we,
what are your choices now? I guess at this point, we're about a week out. So
I would say, if you want to vote early, stop in City Hall Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. You can pick up an absentee ballot and then drop it off at your convenience, or fill it out right there. Up to you. I would say do not put it in the mail at this point. I'm concerned it would take it.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday, our senior center, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., we will be doing in-person voting. You'll need a mask. We're doing social distancing. So if the weather is rough, please dress for that in case you have to spend some time waiting outdoors.
Okay, good to know. Good warning. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Appreciate all your advice and help and talking about the issues that are important to Winooski voters. So thank you much for that. And I want to remind everyone to vote early ballot or in person on town meeting day, which is Tuesday, March 2nd. And of course, to watch the Town Meeting TV live results show beginning at 7 o'clock on town meeting day. So we hope to see you all soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.